I will call the meeting of the Beavercreek Township Trustees to order. It is 1:01 p.m. on Monday, November 24th, 2014. We can start with pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda before us. Is there any additions, modifications, or changes to the agenda? I'm going to add a executive session at the end under 121.22G1 to consider appointment and compensation of a public employee. Any other additions or changes? I get a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda, modified agenda.
Second?
Mr. Paxton.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the payroll in the amount of $258,795.45.
Second?
Mr. Paxton.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $201,887.87.
Second?
A lot of eights in there.
Mr. Paxton.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Move to approve the minutes, the regular meeting held November 10th, 2014.
Ms. Aarons, did you modify those as we spoke? Okay.
Yep.
Second?
Mr. Paxton.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes. This time, any citizens desiring to speak? Seeing none, we'll close that session, move on to old business. Mr. Paxton?
Old business. What I put together a little PowerPoint presentation, and as you're aware of my frustration with asking for the master plan for the project of the communication large project and all that, and so what I determined that possibly there may be a breakdown, or maybe not, have a policy in project management that might structure things in a way that it would standardize the process of project management. So there would be these documents in place when asked for, either by a trustee or a public records request. So this is in the form of a or a discussion, and so I'm just going to put it on the table to discuss some things. And these are just some of my ideas, not specifically my ideas, but they're kind of a standard across the industry in project management. Now, while I add that I think we have 5 certified public managers in the organization, and project management is a module of that 2-year course. So this is not foreign to anybody in the organization, other than maybe somebody may not be familiar with project management. So hit the down arrow. So I'm hitting the down arrow. I'm missing my arrow here, Jeff. Hitting the arrow, but nothing's happening.
Might be too far, maybe it shouldn't be working.
Look at that.
You have to put it up on the, try putting it up.
Yeah, maybe
On the ledge.
set up on there. See.
All right. There we go. Okay. In the policy, basically the policy would establish a standard project approach for all projects within the Beavercreek Township Fire Department, Road Department, IT Department, across the whole spectrum. It defines the difference between ongoing management and project management. So In a program management on sub-level, anything, what I'd like to see in this budget cycle is anything above the standard baseline of management of each program. Any purchase of any items might be cranked into a project management model, whether it be a big project or a small project. But this will be based on standard project models in the field. It would establish a complete project document. So when a project is underway, there will be a document of that whole project.
Can we give Mr. Paxton the respect of letting him talk?
Sorry.
Thanks, not you.
My packet.
I understand. It's distracting.
Sorry.
Then in the policy, what the policy would do would define whoever's going to run the project or had an idea of a project, an idea or an opportunity or a problem. It would define the problem or the opportunity. The policy would have them define that. It would identify supporting evidence for that problem or opportunity and would point to standards in the field that would support the project or the opportunity. It would identify the scope, the assumptions, and the risk of the project. So all this would go into the policy. It would categorize small or large projects. And it would answer common township project questions such as ongoing management, training costs, annual fees. And you know that's been an issue of mine with annual fees. So all this stuff would be up front and be put into a document. And a policy would be an approval process, if you will. So it would document project, it would document the planning part, it would document define resources that the project would use, it would document the funding. And this policy would demonstrate accountability on the township's part to the taxpayer. It would document the allocation of resources, when and where and who. And more importantly, it documents a communication plan. So throughout the course of the project, the communication plan will identify who's going to get information, at what point in time in the project they're going to get information, updated information, so on and so forth. And the policy would exemplify transparency. Right now, there's no transparency. A completed document would be transparent. The role of the project policy, it would establish a communication plan, as I mentioned, for a given project. Communication is important. As part of my reasoning for coming up with this is the communication part of this whole thing. It would establish a formal approval process for all projects. So a project doesn't get approved, small or large, until it gets cranked into this policy or this conduit for projects. It would create an overall project document that carries through elected officials. So if from one year to the next, elected officials might change. So a new elected official coming in would have access to this document. So when things come before the board to be approved items, then the new elected official would have this document and you could bring them up to speed on where the project is along the way. And it would be easily referred to for reference. Documents, it would document any changes in a project, and those changes would get communicated to the stakeholders along the way. So if there's a change in an item that might be outdated in the middle of a project, an IT item, then they're going to have to go from maybe this year's to the next year's. There might be an increased cost in the item. Then that gets documented and gets communicated to the board, so everybody's aware of that. And make sure all interesting parties are involved where they need to be. So If it is a certain kind of a project, maybe that needs to get run through legal, or maybe HR has to look at it and make sure there are certain items in that project that gets touched and looked at, so we don't miss anything in that manner. And the rule of project and policy would establish a project timeline. So we have some kind of idea of the start of a project and the finish of a project. And if the project gets interrupted for somewhere along the way, if Tim's working on a building project and you have it in here and it's in the middle of the winter time and a huge 7 feet of snow comes along, it's going to tie Tim up for a few weeks, then we're aware the timeline can be increased. Some timelines might be more sensitive than others. But more importantly, it creates a map of the overall project from start to finish.
You went back.
Did I hit that
It's in the
again?
folder.
All right. Okay, the role of project policy becomes a conduit for all projects, small or large. Documents the reason for undertaking the project. As I mentioned before, whether it's an opportunity or a mandate or an emergency or whatever. The policy would outline the objectives and the limitations, restrictions faced by the project. It will provide solutions, written solutions to the problem. So all the solutions can be looked at and not just one. It will identify the main stakeholders of the project as well. It seems like I've been through that.
Yeah, you're going
I've
the
been
wrong
through that,
direction.
and I wasn't looking for, there's one more last one that's in there that,
Go back one, I think. There you go. That's your last slide.
all right. I'm having a problem finding out. But basically, this is not these are just some ideas to be cranked in here, and I think that a policy in and around project management would be good for the township. Right now, we don't have anything like that I know of. I'm not saying that we don't manage projects, because I think we do.
Sure.
All I'm saying is that we crank these projects into a policy that filters out a lot of things that would be transparent for the taxpayer, the trustees, and all that. I would like to, if I ask for a certain thing as a trustee and a representative of a taxpayer, I think it is paramount that I get that information back. So if I have to ask questions about it, I can, based off of this. Right now, we don't have anything like that. So I would like to work with, Alex, or Alex can take this information and come up. There's certainly many models out there.
Alex, can you describe to us essentially the process now, capital versus, just start with a capital project. So we're coming up on budget time. We have identified a short list and long list of projects that we want to do in 2015 and or 2016. Walk us through that process of how you package that, bundle that, present that, with what's given to you from the department heads, and how you communicate that to trustees.
Yeah, there's two things that are identified in the budget document that is prepared for the board. One is the upcoming fiscal year that is broken down into more of a performance-based budgeting that outlines the goals and objectives of each program within that document. And it also has what we did the previous year. So if it wasn't met, then there's reasons documented why it wasn't completed. For example, one that went from over a couple years was the parking lot project that we were waiting on, an outside engineer to complete the drawings for us. So those were clearly documented in the document as well. The capital plan, and we look at a 5-year. When I got here, we looked at a very large 10-year, and we reduced that to looking at just 5 years ahead. That's more realistic than 10 years. Looking at that 5-year, identify capital needs within that project. So, for example, if you look at the IT section of the budget document, it looks at end of life, where we were expecting, like say, for example, a server, where we were looking at end of life to the server, and that's why they would see that increased cost in, let's say, 17. So those are some of the things that are identified in the budget document that we review. And then, of course, we discuss having that early next year for the review of the budget document.
Okay. And then what I guess what maybe Mr. Paxson or I would refer to as minor projects. So you have a dollar threshold of what's considered capital versus what's considered repair and maintenance. So some of these smaller projects.
Here's my thought on this, small project, large project. There's program budget management. And in your explanation there, Alex, let's just take EMS supplies. All right, that's a program. Within that program, there's an ongoing baseline cost, say, that might fluctuate with the type of the runs for that year. Might have a little bit more ALS runs versus BLS runs, but there might be a baseline of supplies used for that year. And there's an opportunity to buy Life Pack 15s. Okay. All right, so that's a major expense because the Life Pack 15s, what, $25,000 a piece, something like that. All right. So that would be cranked into this model. All right. And in that there would have to be an argument made for the project. All right, the argument might be an opportunity. This is a good opportunity for us. The funding's here. It's a good project for the community. So on and so forth. But the argument have to be made for the project if it varies from the baseline budgeting. And so you would get more of a stable baseline budgeting from each program by doing it this way. So let's just say in training, there's an opportunity to get an online service for an online training for fire or whatever. If that varies from the baseline budgeting, or if there's a change in the organizational structure, then it gets run through and gets run through as a project, so we can have an idea. It may not be a big project. The resources might only be one person or two people involved. It might be the training committee, and there might be some training involved from outside coming in to do the training for us. But it gets cranked into this to this conduit and gets looked at. It would be good for you, Alex, because you would be aware of all this, and actually you would be the first line of approval. So, or the department head. So let's just say somebody over training has an idea on a new training. It would get run through the chief, Dave, and he would get approval. He might say, yeah, it's a good idea. Then we go through Alex, and Alex would say, yeah, this is a good idea. The funding's there. And then ultimately it would get presented in some way in front of the trustees. So there would be a final approval process for every project that gets going on, whether it's small or big, and a standard way of managing the project through making the argument for the project, to defining the scope of the project, to who's going to be involved in the process and where's the money's coming from, and in the communication plan, right on down to the final approval and the closing of the books on that project. It would be a document right here on the Life Pack 15 project. Boom, there it is. In the file it is. If anybody ever wanted that, there it is. You make copies of it. There it is. So And this would keep projects from running together, all right? And keep the funding structured and the request for purchasing structured. So when somebody's up here asking for money for a certain item, the bucket truck, you know, we're aware of the project that's going on. And when you ask for certain approval purchases along the line of that bucket project, we're aware of it. Let's just take the parking lot project, all right? For that parking lot project, when I first came to the table, it was going to be between the two buildings, and it was going to have this, and this. The charging stations, the pad for the communication building, and the back door for the admin building. All right. Well, if you run all those through one project, you know, they're different projects. The parking lot's one project. The door in the building is another project in a building. And the charging station is a project for the computers for the fire apparatus. All right, so each one of those is a different project. So you run them as different projects. So there might be the opportunity to, you know, run them together in a joint purchase and something like that. But without us knowing about this project, you know, running this project, and all of a sudden they come together, and it's like, wait a minute, all we really need is 19 parking places. Why have we got all this other stuff coming in here? If we're aware of the other stuff coming in there, then it's different. It might make it a little easier to make the purchase approval. So that's all I'm saying is we don't have any kind of a conduit to run our well, I don't say we don't have a conduit. Alex explained something, but it is very loose. And a project being based off of the budget sheet that says we want to do this, we have the funds for it, it's a goal of ours. That's all we have right now. And there's no formal approval process to look at a project and see if it's worthy of doing or not. So that's my argument on it.
Okay. Alex, maybe if you can, a couple things. Number one, Mr. Paxton, if you can distribute this to Alex so that we can take a look at it and digest it a little bit more. At the same time, Alex, if you can kind of put together a process workflow of the budget process, just so make sure we're all on the same page, and poke holes in it where we don't necessarily always follow that. But what's the rule versus the exception? For planned expenses, and then how do you interject unplanned or unforeseen things like the bucket truck, okay, for example. And then revisit essentially our threshold of, I agree with Mr. Paxton in some degree that we need, there's always improvement in project management. And I think we may be melding budget management, forecasting, and purchase requisition process kind of all together, and the justifications that are required when you bring something to purchase. Chief and I had a conversation. It was a very informal conversation, but he said there's 11 things he knows that the board needs to hear before he brings the next purchase request.
We're up to 13.
Now we're up to 13. So the idea is, obviously, as a collective board, we've each added a bit to that, and now each of us has a couple holes we like to poke in things before we approve them. So, just if you can summarize, the process as it is today, any areas you think we need to improve, get input from department heads, and then let's revisit this before budget time. So, it's a good conversation to have, and it's the time of year to have it. So there's always going to be opportune times when you can add 2 or 3 things together because you have the funding, or because there's a savings opportunity if you bundle them together. And we need to know that. Thank you, Mr. Paxton.
And I'm not opposed to that, but the bundling, I think, would have to be within reason. So
Well, each one has to stand alone on its own.
Yeah.
Has to be justifiable on its own, and then if there's an opportunity to package things together for a cost savings, why wouldn't you? So if they make sense on their own. So as a standalone item. I think no different than if you could buy a bucket truck and a Bobcat from the same dealer and get a brake, you would. They're 2 different budgets. Okay. New business, we had none. Administrator, what do you have?
Thank you, Board. It's a little bit different in your packet. The first thing I have in your packet is the meeting schedule for 2015. Just to point out two things on page 3, where we are moving meetings because of holidays will be January 20th and May 26th. Those will be moved to Tuesday. As stated in the document that was presented, all special meetings, for example, like zoning, special trustees meetings and things will be conducted again in the evenings. I do have a motion to accept the 2015 regular meeting calendar schedule for next year.
I'll make a motion to approve the Beavercreek Township regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2015 as presented.
Second?
Mr. Paxson.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The second item in your packet is a resolution for the holidays for next year. This will be holidays that will be affecting the essentially all the non-union employees. Their holidays are identified in their contract and the collective bargaining agreement. By the Ohio Revised Code, we're obligated to give 10 holidays. This schedule pretty much mirrors the 2014 schedule. We're removing President's Day and Columbus Day for the day after Thanksgiving and December 24th, day before Christmas. I have a resolution in your packet.
Okay, I make the motion to approve the holiday resolution for year 2015. I don't think I need to go down through and name every holiday.
As presented.
As presented.
As presented. Mhm, as presented.
Second?
Mr. Paxson.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. That's all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. Human Resources.
Quick question for Jim, will you post that or do you want me to?
Oh,
All right, sounds good. The only thing I have today then is my bi-weekly report. If you have any questions, I can answer those.
The Bureau of Workers' Comp reimbursement that came in, has that flowed, Mr. Brown, through your side as well?
it did flow through me. I received it in as new money this year because it was technically
This is last year's money.
reimbursement from 2012.
12.
And I can't technically reduce an expenditure written in prior years. So we did receive it in as new money, proportionally distributed amongst the funds that paid into
Okay.
it. So
Okay.
fire, of course, got the bulk of it, and general and road got a little bit of it, but it was receipted into other state receipts. So it is sitting in there and not earmarked specifically for a specific purpose at this point yet.
Okay. I'm assuming we were not cost neutral, meaning our costs for this year still exceed what we put back in. Okay. So, all right, anything that you need to add, Alex, on that? Okay.
I mean, other than the Bureau really encourages employers to use that money for safety and wellness. I mean, that's what is
Encourages or stipulates?
They encourage.
They encourage, yes.
Okay.
I mean,
I can't
because
stipulate.
you put,
Right.
their theory is you're putting that money back in and
Sure.
you're ultimately going to reduce.
The concept is you're going to use it to reduce it for future
Correct.
liability.
Yeah, that's the main reason for that.
But they do mark it as a surplus refund for
Right.
premiums paid, because that's
Okay.
what it really is. They have too
Okay.
much money in their funds.
What have we done with past reimbursements?
We've only got
This is
one
the
other
first
one.
one.
This is the second one.
Right.
We've not done anything with it.
Okay. Okay. I had no other questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Board, in your packets, the zoning biweekly report. Just to add a few things, we are still active in the housing. Last week, I approved 3 new houses in Beavercreek Township, a lot split, as well as a fence permit, and today we've received 3 new housing permits. So I'll be working on that this week.
All MI or were these?
No, different MI homes, Liberty Hills, and Country Club of the North.
Okay. We are set for December 8th for that evening, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
and we have 2 items on the agenda?
Yes.
Still? Okay.
And that's all I have for the zoning department.
Mr. Paxton, do you have anything on zoning?
Nope.
Information technology.
Good afternoon, Board. We have one item for purchase this meeting. You done, Mr. Paxton?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Need for a renewal of the Citrix licensing and service contract we currently have. They did offer a 3% discount for early renewal, and there was some remaining funds left in the budget to cover that, and that's why I am bringing it at this meeting. Works out to about $169, $170, but it is a savings.
This is a calendar year renewal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It usually comes due in February.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the purchase request to Citrix Systems, Inc. for licensing and premium support renewal in the amount of $5,432, and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Quick question, is this state of Ohio pricing? Is this off a bid list? How does this pricing flow come to us?
The Citrix, I'm not certain if it is with the state of Ohio pricing. It would go through, well, initially through CDW, but we're dealing with, and also MTM is who we were dealing with in the past, but Citrix had offered a lot.
So they're a dealer or distributor for it, and then
Yeah, instead of going through a third party, we're going directly to the source, and it's saved quite a bit going that route.
Okay.
And their service is quite a bit better. We were doing 8x5, which 5 days a week for 8 hours was their service before. Now we're 24/7 with Citrix, and our licensing renewal. That price is the same. Getting through a third party, pretty standard for their licensing and training and whatever. They don't get much of a break, but their service is quite a bit cheaper.
Okay. Township Association, Mr. Paxton, in the past, or even Alex, I'll ask both of you the same question. Has the association ever tried to put together a co-op on any of these type of software agreements or anything like that, where they could negotiate as a group collectively versus individually?
Not here locally. There has been discussion, and between a couple of the only 3 administrators in Greene County to discuss this. We're on a totally different system as, for example, Sugar Creek or Xenia Township. Now, we have discussed getting on a network together where we would serve as each other's backup in case of a catastrophic failure.
Sure.
So but when it comes to the software, this goes for our cloud-based. Now everything's going to our,
Right.
cloud-based, but and we've started some discussions with Xenia Township because they're looking at shared services or co-oping in this field. So we've started that conversation with Xenia Township.
Okay.
And we are under a state term or a group contract with Adobe and Microsoft both. We do
Sure.
get benefits from it.
Okay. I was just curious on this one. So we had a motion, I'll second.
Yep.
Mr. Paxton,
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes.
And next was my bi-weekly. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on that. The Facebook page and Twitter page are both created. They're not active yet, or they're not public yet. They're in private mode. We're going to activate them today. We're looking for some more up-to-date pictures, and I'm sure we'll get some as time progresses, but we do have some of the last open house and some of the pictures on the Facebook page.
Sure.
How do you know what kind of activities taking place? Do you have a calendar that?
Yeah, we can go in and monitor.
Things
it.
people
We're still working with the Drupal monitors or modules that's how our website is formatted with, and getting it where it'll propagate anything we add onto the website will automatically update to the Facebook. But with the Drupal programming. We're going to work on that a little bit more. But,
On both, you'll be able to monitor as far as the number of followers, and then part of the key is to who you tie and link into, and then if you do some mutual, I don't want to say promotion of, but some tie-ins either with the city or with some of the other communities around, even HOAs and things like that might have interest in those emergency alerts. So.
Our goal is if we add something to the website, it automatically pushes the two out to Twitter and Facebook with a link that comes back to our website to provide more information. So
Yeah, this should always push it back. And then I think in the next In Touch, do something as far as just putting it out there, that it's there, and we have entered the next century. I had no questions. Saxon?
I was going to ask you about the research you're doing on the Android. Is it the Android pads or the iPad versus the?
yeah, I haven't done a lot of that. I've been working with the website, mostly trying to get that up and with the Facebook and the feeds and everything. And also
See, I'm thinking something like that could be run through like a small project. You run it through the small
yeah, it's,
project, so the information's.
yeah. Once we have the research and the pricing and everything, that'll definitely be shared with the board.
Anything else for Mr. Terry?
Is there anything on the go-to-meeting thing we were talking about, where you can do a meeting online without having the apparatus come down to the firehouse? We discussed that, been several meetings back actually, I think, and
Yeah, they do have several different flavors of that. The GoToMeeting, they do have a free application. It would depend on how much we would use it and everything for the time, what the cost would be. But look directly into that as far as we'd have to check the equipment, what they have, the meeting rooms and everything. That would be, have to coordinate that with the fire department, and we just have to see what the total cost would be. If they had projectors or TVs over in each of their training rooms at each station and everything, where they could log in and we could have a meeting, and then if you wanted to do the web.
Part of the question is if you're tying in desktops or workstations, or if you're tying in room to room, and so that's where cost creep will come in if you're going room to room.
And we're looking at the ability to two things. One, I know the fire department's looking into this and is considering it as potentially a project for 15, but we have to look at what our structure is. In other words, our infrastructure, and at what level, because there could be some modifications to the system, and whether we have to add the equipment or purchase additional equipment.
Between Skype or GoToMeeting, or Uvu, there's all kinds of solutions out there. It's just a matter of what the cost is.
Yeah. And staff's looking at that. And
Quality of video, quality of voice. And then if you're going to record or not
Going with the
record.
hardware, it's going to be relatively expensive to run a bridge and do all that if we're planning on doing that.
It can become a data hog. That's all.
yeah, it could be, yeah.
well,
But it can also-
it would serve three things that I can think of. Number one, it would maybe save on apparatus wear and tear. I don't know how often they come down there, but I see an engine other than 61s over there quite often. Fuel, so wear and tear fuel, and it would help keep the apparatus in place. So, I mean, I think it's worth looking into. So.
Yeah, we're looking into it.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Terry?
Nope.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, board.
Mr. Parks for roads.
And other assigned duties. Good afternoon, board. The first thing on the agenda is a project kind of given to staff to do an energy audit of all of our buildings. This is going to be a two-part process because A, we didn't budget for it, so we had to move money. And the goal behind this is, the way this program works, we're eligible for up to 3 buildings a year. So we're trying to get 3 done this year, so we can do an additional 3 next year. And kind of the way the program itself works is you have to pick one of their certified energy consultants to come in and do the work, which we have done that. Once we get the audit done, and the paperwork processed, we are eligible for a 50% discount right off the bat. So the purchase request that's before you today will be cut in half.
Is that a discount or a rebate?
It is actually a rebate.
Okay.
And then if we move forward with any of their recommendations, in the 3 buildings we picked this year, just so you're aware, are 63, 62, and this building. And I am sure we can make some modifications to all 3. They will rebate the second half of that $10,500 up to the $5,250 when we make those improvements. So basically what we're doing is we're fronting the money, and at the end of the project, the consulting fee goes away.
Right. Essentially, to eliminate to repay the consulting fee, you're committed to 50% of the consulting fee in improvements.
Right.
Is that right? So if you theoretically spend $10,000 for the consultant, half of that's going to get rebated when you do your paperwork back to DP&L or Vectren, whoever it is.
DP&L.
And DP&L. And then on the flip side, the other $5,000 would be when you submit paid invoices of work you did to improve your overall efficiency.
That is correct.
And this is DP&L. Does Vectren have a similar program or not, or is that of?
I'm only aware of DP&L Energy's rebate.
DP&L is going to be that's going to be the lion's share. So.
Yeah, but I think the energy consultant went, and I apologize, I haven't worked directly with the gentleman, I kind of passed this project off. As I understand it, there are Vectren rebates that are out there that we can apply for over and above the DP&L.
It's a separate program. Right. So, and the objective is not necessarily to get LEED certified buildings out of this. The objective is to look for cost leak, essentially, wherever we can, whether it's lighting, whether it's devices we're leaving on, plugged in, not turning off, things like that.
Right, and it kind of give us a planning tool, because one of the things I do believe that's on our capital improvements for next year at 63s is to look at upgrading the heating and air.
Right.
At that building. So we could get that $5,250 back right out of the chute. So
EP is an excellent firm. So
we've done work with them in the past, and that's kind of why we picked them
solid.
out.
They've been around for a long time and good reputation.
So this is a 2-part. One, we have to move money by resolution, which you should have, and then the second one's a purchase request.
Yeah, we should move the money first.
When the money comes back, how does that?
Well, that's going to be a problem because we're expending the money in 2014. And when is it coming back?
If we don't get it back until 15, so then
You'll
it
get it.
has
Reduce
to,
an expenditure within the prior year, so then it becomes
New money.
It becomes new money next year.
and just part of the overall carryover.
Okay.
But it doesn't. We don't like to do it that way, but sometimes if they span different years, there's no other option for me to do it.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure we took your considerations into consideration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay, first to move the money over. Whereas the Board of Trustees, Beavercreek Township, Greene County, State of Ohio, move for the approval of the following. To reappropriate money from account number 2192-93-930-930-000 from contingencies to fire to account number 2192-220-730-550 improvement of sites facility in the amount of $10,500. And to have the township, no, we need to have them sign for that.
Second.
Okay, that's the next one.
Mr. Paxson,
Okay, yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Okay, now, this is,
That's
make a motion to approve the purchase request 00336 to HEPE Engineering for energy consulting services in the amount of $10,500 and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Paxson.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
And just to follow up to that, there were two little things in the terms and conditions that legal was not comfortable with. Keith was kind enough to remove those from the proposal, so that's all good to go. The second thing on the agenda is Beavercreek Township Road snow and ice policy for winter of 2015. We kind of looked at going back and redoing the whole snow and ice policy that we have on file. But we're going to try to make it through this winter and kind of see where we're at, where the salt industry is going, before we go back and redo that whole policy. So this is just kind of an outline on the base policy because every storm's different. It's mirrored after Green counties. We took into consideration some of the stuff that the city of Beavercreek does. They do a lot of pre-treating, which we don't. So that's kind of why we stayed with the Green County policies. We're under the same consideration. That's where that first time out we'll probably hit everything lightly. And then after that, make the decision whether we go to a completely plowing operation or continue the way it is. We just kind of want to put this down in writing to make the board aware and also be able to post it on the website to make the residents aware of why they're seeing changes in what we're doing. And it's not because we want to, it's because we're forced to because of the cost. So far, we've been out twice. One was the 4-inch snow. We plowed it once and salted it, and then we continued to plow till the storm was over, and we were done and out of here by 4 o'clock that Monday afternoon with fairly good results. And then we were in Saturday, and as we kind of addressed in here, the 50% salt, 50% grits for ice storms, we went to that. By the time we left at 9 Saturday morning, our roads were in good shape and starting to melt off, and we didn't seem to have too many problems in Beavercreek Township on township roads. Any questions?
Is the frequency, what are the measurable differences between what you've proposed and what Greene County's doing? Is there, as far as the number of hours, the number, when there'd be black pavement? Is it?
Because we're smaller than the county, one of the things that we're going to try to do is at the end of the storm have everything cleaned up within 12, which they can't do because of the eastern part.
Sure.
Which is what they're considering their secondary roads.
They could on their primary, right?
Yeah, and even east of 68 is considered secondaries. So,
But our primary road matches the county?
fairly close, other than we've put in the front ramps of the firehouses, which is kind of unique for the situation we're in the industrial complex.
Okay.
And that's just because the amount of traffic over here in business. We're trying to keep the business community kind of happy.
Okay. Compared to Xenia Township or any of our neighbors that we adjoin, are we noticeably better, worse, the same?
It's kind of early to tell because Sugar Creek, I don't know that they have changed their policy. City of Beavercreek, we kind of mirrored each other this last time. And I never got over to Xenia Township or some of the other ones. So.
And Alex, you haven't seen policies from them yet?
No, I
Fairborn put theirs out, I saw.
No,
They listed their primaries. I didn't know if Xenia or Xenia Township did. So. Okay.
Yeah, most of the ones on our primary haven't changed. And they're we'll call them main connectors, which is like factory.
So, do I understand correctly? This is a best effort
Right.
guideline.
It's a
Is that
guideline.
the best way to describe it?
Right,
It's
that's exactly
best
what it
effort,
is.
and things could change better or worse.
Well, and kind of this is an evolving document because every storm's different.
Right.
But at least if this will give the guys running the shift some guidance on what needs to be done, or at least a starting place.
But it is a change from the past.
It is a change from the past.
It should stretch our supplies longer.
It has so far.
Okay.
So, yes.
All right. I'm fine with it.
I do have a motion there if you would like to.
Make a motion to approve the snow and ice policy for 2014-2015 season. as presented.
Second?
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Can,
And then I have my bi-weekly report. If there's
Can I
any questions.
interject something real quick?
Sure.
I'm probably gonna put that policy on
send
letterhead,
you-
and I will have you guys sign it at the
That's
next
fine.
one. It just makes it cleaner, I think, for my office. It's policy. Then it's not, then if anybody came into our office, we can say, yeah, here it is. Boom. You have a problem with that?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Should we post that on the website?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
post it on the website.
And then
And then we just have the bi-weekly report, just kind of some of the highlights. Cherry trees have been planted, and that group is very happy. One thing that was left off of the bi-weekly report is in the last 2 weeks, we've had 4 burials. So that's kind of become a busy,
Everyone's dying to get in.
yeah, I was trying not to say that. Other than that, I'll answer any questions.
tree planting wise, I mean, everything is done there. They're set up to do their follow-on maintenance in the spring.
To the best of my knowledge, I'll be back in touch with them in the spring. I mean, at this point, when she left here that Wednesday that we did it, she said she'd be back to take care of some of the little things that still need to be done, so.
Okay. As far as your awareness items on the bridge, any update on that?
Yes, I actually talked to a consultant last week. He is working with the designers of the bridge. They're currently having some difficulty with the abutment on each side to keep it anchored from when it does flood in that section. But he feels confident that they'll be able to get through that, and it's a busy time of year, so he is hoping to have a plan back to us before the end of the year so we can secure the money in 14 and have to carry it to 15, but the installation will probably go in 15.
Are there any grants or anything available that we can apply for to help offset some of that, as far whether it be from conservation groups or FEMA or anybody else out there?
A lot of the grant money in the last 3 years has disappeared due to all the budget constraints from the federal level down to state level. We did research, not so much for the Phillips Park, but we did ask about some grant money for the Factory Road project through the federal government, and they said all their money is gone. It's been cut out of the budget. So we have looked at other areas of grant money, not for the bridge project, though. Right. I mean, we could look at potentially some private foundations, but once again, they're in the same boat as everybody else.
One of the biggest ones for parks is Nature's Work grant, and I just came involved in that this year. They do it like every 2 years, and basically what happens in Greene County is all the jurisdictions come together, and once you have a plan together, you present it to the group. The group kind of votes on what projects need to be funded and whatever, and they move it as a Greene County project up to the next level, which kind of helps get the project through. This project, because it was such a short time this year, because they did it early, we weren't to that point of submitting it. So that grant is 2 years out, but at least we're aware of it now, so that's something we can look forward in the future.
Alex, you might talk to Ms. Graff. MVRPC, they've been making a big push. One of their initiatives or objectives is the clean water and rivers. And there's several initiatives there. I'm not as familiar as she'll be, but it might be something you just chat and see if there's something through, not necessarily through MVRPC, but through that. I can't think of the acronym that they've applied to it, but it's relative to riverways and waterways. And
We've looked at some of that with the Little Miami, especially with some of the larger log jams that we have on the Little Miami right now.
right. This, I don't know if you consider this an enhancement, some, I don't know, they're, just might talk to her and see if you can dig in and see if there's any money there that might help, either with the design or anything else like that, if there's a component that it can help cover. So, water line, was there an executive summary coming?
There is.
Okay.
We've kind of ran into a slight snag
Okay.
that we're trying to work through at this point. And it's really going to make a difference on how this project moves forward, whether we take a step back
Okay.
and redo the whole thing. It's in process, and one of the things we tried to do last week was get the group back together, but
Okay.
time constraints, that didn't happen.
So sense of urgency is on hold until you explore some of these.
Yeah, and one of the things we were kind of waiting on, at least as the group, not so much on the township side, but on the city side, was the outcome of their levy. So it did pass, officially pass, and was certified.
But as far as the numbers go, they're coming. There's just that one component of how the water lines are currently ran that we need to get through before we move forward, because we don't want to go in and cobble up a system that's already cobbled up even more. So one big thing I did fail to mention is the Indian Ripple Road property. That project is completed. We did a final walkthrough last Thursday. It turned out very nice. If any of you get a chance, go up, take a look. Just make sure you have your hunter safety orange on if you're up there this time of year.
It's very active this week.
But where they took the house and the outbuildings and some of that stuff out, you get a nice view of the area. So that turned out very nice, and all the documentation we have the electronic documentation at this point, the written documentation we should have by 8 weeks in. So.
And one thing Mr. Parks and I discussed on that property as well is, instead of identifying it as the address, is to look at 15 to go ahead and name the park, much like we did on Fairgrounds. So we're looking at that. Of course, part of the agreement was that we would have the family involved in any discussion in the naming of the park. Also, just to add one thing that Mr. Parks and I are constantly evaluating is Factory Road. With all the rain that we received in the last 24 hours, is not flooding. We were down there, I was down there this morning. It is high, but it is flowing. So it's a dramatic improvement than what we've seen in the past.
Are there plans in the spring for any finished grade or anything like that, as far as you're just kind of seeing how it all flows, literally and figuratively?
We have plans in the spring to go back and do finished grading, and probably some more clean out front. It was just so wet because of all the material that was pulled up.
Right.
It was just like.
Are you going to river rock that whole trench or ditch, or are you going to?
Well, we have to wait to see, first of all, what the county's doing next. The county's looking at two things in regards to this project that is related to it, but then separate from what we did. One is the fence work in the back, which the only thing that we recommended is having a gate large enough to get equipment in and out so that we can address any log jams or any debris that's built up back there. The second project that we're looking at is cleaning out that main tile that runs from Factory Road to the creek. So we're going to see where they're at. They're soliciting bids right now to look at cleaning that out. I believe why it's still holding some water up there is that there's so much silt inside there, and that is a 4-foot 4x8 tile. So if you've driven by, you would see that the water levels of the pictures that we provided have gone down significantly, but it's still holding water. So they're looking at cleaning that out.
Okay. And as far as the financial arrangements that were agreed to, all of that, everything has been taken care of there?
Yep, everything's done.
And fulfilled?
Yes, sir.
I reduced the expenditure by 26. They sent it right away within a couple days.
Great.
Any other questions?
Are you actually still mowing? You had it on your report.
No, actually, we're still mowing at the library, and it's more of a chewing up the leaves, and the township building, we've done it a couple times.
As it warms up, hopefully you don't have to do it anymore.
Well, I'm not going to say it. The mowers are getting ready to be put away for the winter, so.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have anything else? Chief?
Good afternoon, Board. I have a few items for you today. The first of which is correcting a rather embarrassing mistake from Resolution 2014-338. In that, it referenced Mr. Osterday's family providing a donation in his memory. He has not passed away. I'm happy to report that he was able to come in himself and help us correct that error. So if the board is willing, I'd like to go ahead and make sure that resolution indicates that he is still with us.
Nothing's changed since this one was written, correct?
Not that I know of, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the change resolution to accept the die-cast fire trucks for the Beavercreek Township Fire Department in the amount of $100.
It's a modification to which resolution?
It's a modification of the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And in proof that there were no ill feelings regarding this, Mr. Osterday has donated a third die-cast truck. So we have an additional resolution accepting an additional donation from Mr. Osterday.
This is his personal collection he's passing to us, or how is this?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he purchased them specifically for the fire department or if
Okay.
they're part of his collection. I will try and find that out next time we speak to him.
Sure.
They are going next door with the other collections in our display case, so I do know that.
Great.
Okay, I'll make a motion to form a resolution to accept the donation of Rick Osterday, the die-cast fire truck in the amount of $50. In accordance to the Ohio Revised Section 505.10.
Second?
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And finishing off the resolutions today, we also would like to accept a donation from Mr. and Mrs. Logston of Alpha. They've donated a gift certificate to Rogue Fitness for fitness equipment for the fire department, and appreciation for the fire department's service to their family and the community. We have a resolution for you for that as well.
Okay. Make a motion to resolution to accept the donation from Travis and Lindsay Logston of 758 Alpha Road, Alpha, Ohio. A gift certificate to Rogue Fitness, an appreciation of the services provided to their family and the community, to the Beavercreek Fire Department in the amount of $500.
Second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next items we have for the board are two purchase requests. The first purchase request is for the annual firehouse service and support agreement. This is basically the annual agreement that continues the technical support for Firehouse Software. Firehouse Software is the fire department's records management system. It is also utilized currently by the zoning department, but it's where a great deal of the information that we were requested to provide to the Novak group was held, queried, and then obviously sent to them. And it's the area where we'll be working to continue to improve our information per a couple of the recommendations in the report. What the service agreement will do is provide the ongoing technical support if we have issues, and it also makes sure that we have the most current versions and updates as NEMSIS and NIFRS get updated. So the amount is slightly less than what the invoice was because we're dropping support on our mobile EMS. That is not working out the way it was intended, so we're not going to continue to support that. So the amount in front of you is, I think, 52. Sorry, I handed you the for $52.25.
Question I'll ask are, what we're paying support for, is this does this cross every module that's available, or is, you just said we removed mobile EMS, so are there any other modules that we're paying to support that we're not using?
No, we're
Okay.
using everything else in the system.
Okay. And is tech support a separate component of this as opposed to software upgrades?
No, it's all integrated with their
It's all,
particular product.
it's all in one,
Yes.
it's not a la carte, you can't
Correct.
choose tech support separate from.
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And we do use tech support, probably half a dozen times a year, so it's not one of those things that gets paid for but not used. It's not frequent, but it is used on a
Okay.
semi-regular basis.
And this is just something I'll throw out, it's to you, it's to Alex, it's to IT in general, anybody that's using software, paying for software upgrades, is just to consider for 2015 and for future, separating tech support from software upgrades and possibly looking at an every other year cycle for upgrades. A lot of software packages are going to subscription based so they can avoid that negotiation with you. I understand that, but where it's still available, it might be something you consider. So typically upgrades are separate from bug fixes. They'll come out with a new release that fixes bugs or errors, but at least in my history of selling software, it was a lucrative business. So, any questions, Mr. Patterson?
The firehouse is really the only place to get to.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, you can't- there's no other.
Correct. Nobody else will support it.
No, that's it,
specific.
so.
Yes, sir.
And that's why I asked if tech support was a separate component of the
Yeah.
cost. If it is, it's easier to carve.
Yeah, that may be, the next step we would be looking at is going to their .NET platform, and at that point, they may have that sort of separation. And then beyond .NET is their cloud service. We're not really interested in their cloud service for a whole bunch of reasons that have to do with maintaining our data locally and having our own responsibility for it. So as long as we have the option to continue keeping it local, we'd like to do that.
Sure.
Matter of fact, that will probably be one of those that will cause us to look for an additional vendor if they ever discontinue the local platform.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Make motion to approve the following purchase request, 07311 to Xerox Business Services for Firehouse Annual Support Services in the amount of $5,225. And authorize the Township Administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Boyd. The second purchase request for today is also somewhat software related. This is the Kaplan Online Fire and EMS Training. This is one of about 4 different delivery systems we have for fire and EMS training. The online component provides the bulk of our EMS continuing education. The crews do also receive some from outside agencies coming in and providing direct training, as well as the practical measures when they do protocol and things like that, and some internal training officer provided training as well. There were about 525 hours used last year, which makes it about a $6 per hour cost for the training, so it's a pretty decent bargain for that. It does allow the crews to train from the stations, as we were previously discussing during the IT section, being able to keep the crews in quarters and being able to provide some quality training that way. So it does have an interface to Firehouse, so the information when the crews do complete their training, it is automatically dumped into their training record in Firehouse. We're able to maintain it very cleanly that way. We did reduce the number of seats that we'll have for 2015 based off of the transition to full-time that we've previously discussed with the board as well. So it will be cheaper next year than it was for this year.
Is this a blanket where you can have unlimited number of trainees?
The number of participants is limited, but the number of hours that they use for the registered participants is unlimited.
Okay.
Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Does it, I assume it provides some kind of training certification or a certificate of sorts?
That's correct.
Yeah,
There is you complete the training. At the end, there's a quiz. Once a quiz is successfully completed, you get credit for that particular course. You can print an online certificate, or a certificate from their online service. And then, as I mentioned, the hours dump into Firehouse. And so when the crews go to run their training summary for their recertification, it'll show up in there that they had all the hours that they received in the different categories they're required to have.
Could all their hours populate without ever finishing?
No, they have to complete before it'll transfer.
You have to
over.
complete a module and then it'll
Correct.
transfer? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
And is there, on that training, is there a walkaway preventer essentially built into the system that is there anything preventing you from taking my test for me?
No,
Or is
there's
it
nothing
strictly an
to prevent
honor
that
system?
other than the honor system.
Okay.
That's correct.
And is Kaplan the only game in town?
I don't know that they're the only game. We've used them for about 5 years, and their interaction with Firehouse and the quality of the training has kept us going back to them. But we can explore other options if you prefer. But we've been happy with the results thus far.
What does Xenia use?
We've gone through several programs over there. We have not used Kaplan, but there's EMS Jane, but that
Well,
was,
this is EMS Jane.
yeah.
So,
We did get away from EMS Jane and went to 24/7, which has a fire module, which I think EMS Jane now offers. And the reason why we did not go with EMS Jane was because it didn't offer the inspector hours, the fire, and hazmat. And now EMS Jane does have all those.
Okay. But ultimately, it's a block of training hours. It's use it or lose it, and there's no rebate or refund back if you don't
Correct.
use all the hours. So we try, assuming you try to manage and make sure.
yes, we
use all of
have.
them.
All the crews are assigned monthly training requirements, and then for crews that maintain their national registry, which is a greater training load than state requirements, they'll go out and they'll do the additional training hours to make sure that they maintain both their national registry and their state certification. So there is the regular usage, like I said, for the crews through the program.
Okay. We have a motion?
Make motion to approve purchase request 06952 to Kaplan Fire and EMS Division for Fire and EMS continuing education in the amount not to exceed $3,140, and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Last thing I have for you this week is our biweekly report. A great deal of our time over the past 2 weeks was spent dealing with the performance audits. So the first thing we did is we went out and met with all of the shifts, spent several hours with each shift, going over the performance audit, kind of a high-level view, just letting them know all the different areas that were examined, a number of the recommendations. We talked about the 3 areas the board has specifically given direction on so far, and kind of brought them up to speed on that, trying to eliminate some of the questions and concern with the unknown, obviously, moving forward. And then as part of that, we've also been working on, and this is probably the larger part on staff's time, has been working for that full-time transition. So we've gone out, solicited through HR resumes and applications for interested parties for the new full-time positions that are being created. They have completed all of the interviews, they've completed all of the rankings, and we're in the process now of doing the scoring so that we can provide a complete list and start working on the conditional offers to make that transition. So we've been pretty busy with that for the past 2 weeks.
Did we have full participation as far as those that chose to apply for the full-time?
Yes, sir. We had 19 applications for the 15 positions, so that was a little better than we expected, so that was good. And then we have had all of our company officers, battalion chiefs have all been involved in the ranking process, so that is complete. And then senior staff has been working on the day-to-day changes, the staffing changes, the matrix changes, and those things that we're going to have to do to implement the reduced daily staffing that will occur because of this. So we're making sure that we have everything together, and then we'll be bringing that to the board to show you exactly what that will look like moving forward.
Okay.
That's all I have for the board, unless you have any other questions.
Were there any significant recommendations as far as the open house?
I was not present at the meeting. I was in South Dakota when it occurred, but I've not been told of any, so I'm assuming no, but that is just an assumption. At the open house itself, it seemed to go very well. We had a lot of good participation. It was one of our largest turnouts, if not our largest turnout. The one thing I'm asking for, but we don't have a good way to do it yet, is a head count to actually be able to put a number to how many people are through there, but it's very difficult with multiple points of access and egress.
There's no control of that, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could do something in the future. I know the city struggled with that. They had a tent. I know Kim Farrell had a tent kind of set up to where they were trying to get people to come there and either get a bracelet or something, but you can possibly do that with some type of bracelet or some type of giveaway.
And that's, yeah, we
But
consider
it's-
that our best count actually came from our fire prevention booth, and the biggest interest point for the folks seemed to be the testers for the smoke detectors, and so that's where they got our best count, I believe, is how many of those they handed out, so.
I thought those were swords when I saw them. All the little boys were jousting with them.
Well, yes, if you gave them to the kids, I'm sure that's what they turned into.
Okay. Mr. Paxton, do you have any questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you, board.
Thank you. Legal advisor,
No report.
no report. Mr. Paxton?
Nope.
And fiscal officer?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Legal invoices, Mr. Paxton?
I just had questions on this one here. This NPK&H,
Excuse me, yeah.
the NPK&H?
Yeah,
What's that for?
annexation.
Okay. Okay.
Do you make a motion to approve those?
Make a motion to go into executive session.
No, to
Yeah.
approve the legal
Oh, to approve
invoices,
this,
sorry.
okay. To approve the legal, make a motion to approve the legal bills. Do I need to specify
To
the
do them all?
amount?
Yes,
separate.
invoice number and the amount, please, for each one.
Looking for an invoice.
There's
All right. Make a motion to approve the invoice to Certic Dowd and Turner. Invoice number 67506 in the amount of $4,541.90.
second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the invoice number 2428-0001 to Newhouse, Profiter, Coleman, and Hogan in the amount of $374.
Second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Also, yes.
Make a motion to approve the invoice from Taft, number 2643997, in the amount of $10,475.
Second.
Mr. Paxton? Mr. Kretz?
Yes. Ms. Aaron's, if you can separate that one for me and pass back the other half, I appreciate it. I'll separate these. Thank you.
Yep.
At this time, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
You can't.
Or, I guess, Mr. Paxton, you can make a motion to go to
I'll submit the
121.22.
motion. I'll make the motion, go into executive session for 121.22G1, appointments of
Appointment and compensation.
compensation of public employee.
Second.
Mr. Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes. And for that, I think we do just myself, Mr. Paxton, and Ms. Frick.